Man, so much brake chatter, I almost chipped my teeth. You know what? We just did a brand new brake job. We know the parts are good, but check this out. Holy mackerel. 43 thousandths run out in that hub assembly, rotor. Something's going on. Further diagnosis is needed today on Tech Garage.
Oh my goodness, Johnny, I found the runout. We know we took the rotor off. We know that wasn't the problem, and it's looking like it's from the hub back here, so somewhere in the axle.
Boy, did you ever. Welcome to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. Now, you're probably wondering why we're starting the show with these black gloves on. Well, we decided, and we know we're going to get goopy with some differential fluid. Yuck! What we need to do is we actually had runout, chattering in the brakes. We took the rotor, measured it. We had a ton of runout. We had brand new parts from RockAuto.com, so we know that wasn't the problem. So we went ahead a little bit further, diagnosed the hub, and the hub's warped. Now, we don't know if it's the hub or the axle or what's going on, but Dave, we surely know we have to open up this differential and get this axle out of here.
Before we do that, how does it get like that? You hit a curb probably, I'm guessing.
Me, yeah, you hit a curb.
No, sir, not it, not it. But I can tell you, I think I've heard of cases where this happens if maybe there's a bumpy road, like big bumps, and you get on the power real hard.
Yep.
And there's some horsepower in this thing, so that can happen. Things bouncing up and down.
Absolutely. Supposed to ride like a Lincoln. Right now, it's riding like a baby buggy. But anyway, we're going to have to get into this differential and do that. So take a look at what we're going to do. We're actually going to go in here and take these bolts out. There's going to be a C-clip, Dave, that's going to hold that axle in. It could be clipped in or it could be C-clipped in. Depends. We'll look when we get in there. But we need to take these bolts out. That's probably the first thing. You give me a hand, we'll start taking these out.
Got it. Fluid in here. This would be a good time to change it as well. So I guess it's all right that we're doing this anyway.
Yeah, and when you change the fluid, we'll talk about it a little bit later also, we got to make sure we have the right fluid. Sometimes they're additives, you know, and like you said, there's a service interval for this anyway, so if you're servicing a differential, you're getting a little bonus as well.
Perfect.
Now, when it comes to these differentials, man, they could be either, bearings could be on the end with 4 bolts. A lot of Fords do that. We have to use a slide hammer in order to get it out. But in our case, I'm hoping they're C-clips, and it's pretty interesting. But Dave, here's the problem. We got all the bolts out -1, and it's not coming out. And I knew that was going to happen because I don't know who's going to take the bath, me or you.
The old-fashioned way.
Yeah, you ready? Let's see if we can.
I can smell this already, by the way. This is pretty
Let's see
gross.
if we can work this thing off. It's not going to be pretty, and it's not going to be easy.
Oh.
Hey, no bath, but ooh, if this was smell-o-vision, you like that?
Oh, that's fantastic.
There
Lovely.
you go.
Yeah.
Wow. So this thing needed a service anyway, didn't it?
It certainly did. So it's good that we're checking this out regardless.
Yeah. Well, we'll let it drain for a second. Let me see if I can pop it off. Oh, man, look at that. Watch out. I'm going to sling it your way.
Yes, sir.
Oh, it's stuck up there. Boy, it's up there good. All right.
You shove it up and out of the way, or do you have to bring it down?
I had to pull this little clip off of here, which is stuck up in there, which is no big deal. This is all part of the job. You guys just take your time. Make sure you know what's holding it. Don't break anything. Whoop. Oh, just kidding.
Thanks, John. I'll put it on my head.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think you kind of touched on it there. That's a huge cause of breaking parts when you're changing things. It's just being impatient, trying to force stuff. And with something like this, you've got to be gentle so you don't cause bigger problems.
Absolutely, and you can see our axle comes all the way through. You really can't see it, but Dave, I was smart enough to put it in neutral.
Attaboy.
So we can spin it around. You can actually see the clips inside of here. You know what? It's a pretty complex deal. I got a demo set up, so why don't we take a short break? You take a short break as well. When we come back, we'll show you how this differential works. And Dave, you're gonna have to finish fixing this joker.
I'm ready to go.
Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com, will continue right after this.
Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com, is brought to you by BrothersTrucks.com, your #1 source for 1947 to 87 Chevy and GMC truck restoration. NH Oil Undercoating, the official oil-based rust prevention system. And by RockAuto.com, all the parts your car will ever need.
Welcome back to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. Well, Dave, you made short work of that, man. You look like an expert. I think you'd done that a time or two.
Yeah. And you gave me a couple of tips, too, that I hadn't heard before. So the process was pretty simple. We had the diff cover off already. So once you're inside there, you remove the pinion shaft lock bolt, simple as using a wrench to back that out. And that's going to free up the pinion shaft itself. You got to be careful because you don't want that thing to fall out all the way, because then your spider gears are going to fall out. And you're going to address that. That can be a super mess. You don't want to do that if you don't have to.
Yeah, I'll show them that in a minute, especially when you're in a differential. And that pinion pin, sometimes that fluid's so burnt, Dave, I've seen them. We had to get a hammer, tap it back and forth. It may not fall out that easy. I've seen them so gummed up before, you got to clean that whole differential.
From there, getting ready to actually take the axle out here. So I'm going to push the hub, and then push the C-clip out from the side gear and expose that. And then I was able to go in with a magnet and just get that out of there.
Right.
Sometimes you can reach up there with your finger and grab it. Occasionally it's going to fall down actually to the bottom of the differential itself. You just use the magnet and pluck that out of there. Then it was time to pull the axle out. So we took that and yanked it right out of there, and we were ready for our new axle to go in.
Absolutely. And you know, a couple things, you get the axle out of there. There's some end bearings on this one. Sometimes they're pressed onto the axle. We'll go ahead, we'll replace our end bearings and get them all in good shape. That's a whole nother show. Fluid, just as important, Dave. You got the right fluid, my friend.
You got it, John. You're going to show us here. So this is a really complicated machine right here, and things have gotten tighter and tighter with tolerances. Things are being made by computer, cut with lasers and stuff like that. So you've got tight tolerances. You want to make sure you're using the right fluid. It's not like the old days, just dumping any old fluid in there.
Exactly, and we got some additive on the table. You're not going to need it, but sometimes there's, they call them posi-track. It's actually limited slip. There's really no positive where they're locked together, but limited slip, you're going to have some clutches in here. You're going to need that special additive, just like you would in any clutch pack, so it wears properly and you're turning around the corners. I'll show you how it works in a minute. Looks like you got your hands full with a lot of work.
You got it. I'm going to go get to work, sir.
You do that.
All righty.
Meanwhile, let's check out a whole differential and how it works. This is pretty neat. So I got a little mini drive shaft here because this is coming out of the transmission and it's heading over to what's called a pinion. It drives the pinion right here. These U-joints are connected to a yoke over here and you're driving your pinion. Now your pinion's going in directly into here, which is called the ring gear. This is what Dave was dealing with. This is actually a whole carrier assembly, and what's happening is I'm going in this direction and I'm transferring out to the wheels. Now this is a Healy cut gear, which is pretty cool. It's not as strong as a straight cut or a spur cut gear. It's Healy cut. Now in your spur gears, you probably heard in reverse, when you back up, that's a spur cut gear. And then when you're going forward, they're Healy cut gears, so they're a little bit quieter, but they are strong. So we got fluid in here running, and then what's happening, the pinion's turning the ring gear spinning, and then what's going on, it's actually turning your axles out here. Now, what did Dave do? Well, I can show you right here. I can take it apart, spin it around so you can see it. So this is the actual axle right here. My axle's coming in just like Dave. You can see right in here. If you look in here real good, you can see the clip. Now it won't come out because that's the only thing holding your wheel on. That's scary. Think about that for a minute. If that clip falls out or this falls out, that axle's coming out, your wheel's going with it. Shoop, right by you. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this out just like Dave did, just to give you a close-up look. Plus I wanna show you the spiders and the side gears. So if I pull this out right here, there's the actual pinion shaft, the same thing he pulled out. Now, right now, the clip won't fall out. He said a lot of times it will. He reached over here with his arm, pushed it in, and voila, there's the clip. Just that easy. It's gonna fall out. Now, it might not go that far because you got the other axle on the other side, but there it is. There's the actual C-clip. Now, the axle's now free to come out. So we can go ahead and remove the axle. Let's see, that's a heavy one. All right. Put that right there. Now, if you look inside of here, you got two things going on. You have side gears and pinion gears. Why is that? Well, if I turn the axle, I want to be able to turn the corner and be able to turn it at a rate where both axles aren't locked together. And you can see it right there, I'm turning it. That's what the pinion gears allow you to do. Turn without getting any damage to the car. All right, so I'm going like that, they're spinning at different speeds. Now I can actually pull them out here. And what's going on when I pull them out, there they are. There's your pinion gears. Dave said he locked it so these wouldn't fall out. And if I push on this one, there's the side gears. So the side gears are running around the pinion gears. The pinion shaft's driving the ring gear. Man, we're up and going. Hey, let's check in with Dave and see how he's coming along.
All right, John, we're going to reverse the procedure we saw just a minute ago. Now we've got Benjamin, our assistant, over here giving us a hand putting in the new axle. Go ahead and bring it in. It's pretty delicate, and you got to remember, you only have to move it a little bit down at his end to find the mark there and get it between the side gears, and he's got it popped in. Very cool. So now we're going to get our C-clip. I should be able to put it on there by hand. Back in the spot. Let's see. There we go. We got it seated. Now pull it back out, and that'll seat it there in the side gear, and we are good to go. Thanks, Benjamin. We are good to go. Now we've got to put the pinion shaft back up, and then the lock bolt that goes in, that'll hold that together, and we will button it all back up. But before we do, I want to show you this. This is the differential cover, and it was nasty before this. It had goop all around it. We went outside with a wire wheel and cleaned that off. We also cleaned the other surface here on the casing to make sure this is free of all kinds of debris, because if there's anything on this, it is going to create lots of problems down the road, and you're going to have to do this job twice. And here at Tech Garage, we're all about working smarter, not harder. And of course, RockAuto.com has a gasket for us, the perfect one that fits right on here. So we will button this all up during the break. And when we come back, we're going to show you some Garage Ed that you are going to love. So stay tuned to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. John, who's the sponsor of the show this week?
Dave, if I had to guess, I would say RockAuto.com.
Subtle.
Big time. But you know what? They are all about Tech Garage.
And you can be too. You can catch all the previous seasons of Tech Garage on YouTube. Was that 8 seasons?
Absolutely. And check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that cool social media. We're pumping it out 24/7, and we love to hear from you. We're a show for the people, Dave.
It's a great place to send us a note and tell us how we're doing.
We are rocking and rolling right along here at Tech Garage. Welcome back. Well, it's all about Garage Ed, and we're talking tire service. If you joined us last week, we know everything about the tire fundamentals. It only makes sense to turn our attention to tire service. Now, what do you want to do with your tires? Here's a couple of simple things. First thing you can do to extend the life of your tires is do a tire rotation. And you can see it right here. Now, depending on the vehicle, a lot of front-wheel drive vehicles, you can see the forward cross. That's a method to do it. You can do an X pattern there if you have a 4-wheel drive, or you can do the rearward cross. There's 3 different ways to do it, but definitely look at your tires. You may have different size tires, or you may have directional tires. So in that case, you may not be able to rotate them at all. In the shops, a lot of times we just like to put the front to the back and the back to the front to stop any pulls, so we don't have any tire pulls or tire issues. Now, another thing, super important, when you put your tires on, you want to make sure you torque them. Torque the lug nuts. Why? Well, first and foremost, you don't want to warp that hub or warp the rim or do any damage. So you can always do it in a star pattern. You can see right there, you have a 4 lug nut, 5 lug nut, or 6 or 7. It doesn't make any difference. The point is, go in a star pattern. Go across from the lug nuts back and forth. Now, when you're torquing them, you want to use the proper torque specifications. You can use these right here. These are called torque limiting adapters. We actually call them torque sticks in the industry, and these things here kind of flex at the right torque, so you know you're getting the right torque when it comes to putting the lug nuts on. Still in a crisscross pattern, or you can use an old torque wrench. That's the best way to do it. Just wait for the click, put it to the proper thing, you'll have no issues. Now, also be careful. When you rotate the tires, you may have a tire pressure monitor. Now, the tire pressure monitor, it may have to be relearned to where the tire position is, so on the dash, it doesn't come up with a false reading. You know, that's a whole nother show on Tech Garage, and we'll take a look at that in a later season. Now, when it comes to tires, you also want to be able to read the tires. Right here, you can look at the tires, and you can see that there's some wear here. We need to know what's going on with that, along with 2 measurements called lateral and radial runout. Lateral and radial runout, you can see the radial runout is basically bouncing up and down. That's when you get that hop in the car, and then you may have lateral runout, kind of the shimmy in the seat, that side to side, but we're going to have to do that with a dial indicator, some tape. We need to understand about all that stuff. We need a little help. Dave, how about a little help?
Well, glad to help out here, John. As you mentioned, 2 types of runout. We've got the radial runout, which is what we're testing here, lateral runout, which is side to side. We'll talk about that in just a minute. So you can do this on your driveway. You can set your car up on jack stands. We've done it here on the table, and it's not going to be real precise because you can wiggle the table here, but it doesn't have to be that precise. You have to see the gauge move between 45 and 60 1/1000th of an inch, and I don't think it's going to move that much. And as we look here, this tire is pretty good, moving it no more than 10 in each direction, so we are just fine. By the way, a little trick here that my buddy John Gardner taught me. You don't want to get this dial indicator stuck in the grooves of the tire, so you just run a piece of tape around it, and it's nice and smooth as you go all the way around the tire here. So again, taking a tour of our tire, we see that it's only deflecting just about 10/1000ths in either direction, so we are just fine. Now, testing the lateral runout of your tire, again, moving from side to side, you do the same thing. You put your dial indicator here on the side, you run it along the sidewall. Sometimes a belt might shift or something in the tire, ends up being warped, and that's the shimmy you feel going down the road. And believe me, you'll know it when you have problems with that. Measuring to the same tolerances and measuring the exact same way, that is how you get your lateral runout. When we come back, we're going to learn all about torquing bolts, and there's a whole lot more to it than you might think, so stay tuned to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com.
Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com, is brought to you by Custom Auto Sound, the originator of classic car OEM fit radios since 1977. Magic Creeper, the most versatile creeper ever. And by RockAuto.com, all the parts your car will ever need.
Welcome back to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. Well, it's time for the Master Technician Tech Tip, and this time it's all about torque specifications. It's more important now more than ever. Why is that? Well, you got dissimilar metals in these engines, you got different expansion rates, the gaskets are getting tighter, and the torque specifications are getting more accurate. So what do you want to do? Well, you want to grab a torque wrench, and RockAuto.com has a whole line of torque wrenches, all the way from a 1/4-inch drive to a 3/8 drive to a 1/2-inch drive. What do you want to do? Well, if you got a little 10mm bolt, you definitely don't want to put a 1/2-inch torque wrench on it because it's too small. You want to use the little one. So according to the torque specification is really going to dictate what torque wrench you use. We're going to do it on head bolts, and really there's a sequence to it and a specification. Look at this graphic right here. You can see the actual sequence. It goes 1, 2, 3 in order, working your way from the middle out, and then you're working the bottom bolts. That's very important to get that even distribution of torque. Even more important, you have the specifications. And if you look right there, you can see it's 22 foot-pounds. That's not a lot, I know what you're saying, but then they want an additional. So you put the 22 on it, then you put an additional 90 degrees, you come around again with another 70 degrees, which puts it to its final torque. Super, super accurate. And I can show you how to do it right here. We'll go ahead and we'll use the 1/2-inch torque wrench, and I'll come down here to this center bolt just for demonstration purposes. I got this thing set up at the first torque, so we'll come down here and we'll get a little click in it right there. That's good. So we know we're at that point. So it clicked and we're safe with the first torque. Now the key is this torque angle gauge. This is pretty neat. So this torque angle gauge, I'm going to set it up right here on the bolt for you and show you how to use it. So we'll put it on the bolt, and then what's going on here, this is actually moving. So we want to fix that base so we can get a fixed reference point right there. Now we're fixed, and then I'm going to take this and set it on 0. Why did I do that? Because now everything's fixed. So when I turn the bolt, this gauge is going to move with it. So what's happening is, I'm going to try to get this down here out of your way so you guys can see it at home. Go right here, over on this side. I'm going to pull across the motor. Now watch this gauge. As I pull across the motor, that gauge is moving. So I just go on to whatever the specification is, go around, do all the bolts. You can see it moving, and that's giving me a perfect, accurate torque specification every time. That's critical. Make sure you use the right torque specifications and use the right torque sequence. Well, you can't torque a part unless you have the right part. And Rock Auto's got us covered finding all the right parts.
Well, thanks, John. Tom at RockAuto.com. You can help us find the right tools and also the right parts. How do you do that?
Well, with parts, we try to always offer a lot of choices of brands and have a big selection so you can pick the best part for your particular needs. And for parts like brakes, where we just have tons of choices, we break down the part into other categories. So like we have daily drivers. So if you just want to get the original equipment level performance brakes, you choose daily driver. We have coated brake rotors. If you're in a salty environment, you don't want to have your brake rotors rust or look bad through your wheels. If you're, you want to do a lot of high-speed driving, you may want performance brakes. If you're towing, you may want heavy-duty brakes. So we give all these different subcategories so you can get the best parts for your particular needs.
And you don't have to go anywhere else for all your research. You can do it all up there at RockAuto.com. You also only need to make one trip to your virtual auto store because Rock Auto sells all kinds of assemblies and kits as well.
Yeah, brakes is another good example of kits where if you get the rotor and the pads all together and all the parts you need, then there's less chance of surprises, less chance of dust and noise and that sort of thing.
And you also have some other tools to help folks look for parts on RockAuto.com.
Yeah, one neat thing we have are these little heart icons that show which parts customers with the same vehicle purchased most often and returned least often. So it can be another, if you're kind of flipping a coin between a couple parts, it's like, hey, these are popular parts for people with the exact same vehicle.
Well, RockAuto.com makes it easy. They also give you reliably low prices. Check them out at RockAuto.com.
Wow, look at that. Almost nothing, just a couple of imperfections there, dial indicator lift that could be, but boy, what a big difference, Dave.
Holy moly, I'd call that success.
I call it 2-0.
2-0, baby.
Absolutely. It was a pretty simple job. I mean, you made it look easy, that's for sure.
Well, I appreciate the coaching, first of all. I got some tips and tricks that kept us from letting those spider gears fall out of there and a few things to make the job easier.
Yeah, and we're getting pretty good with the garage ed. We had tire service, that was dial indicator, lateral runout, radial runout, tire straight, rotor straight, hub straight. We're rolling smooth, baby.
And we also talked about torquing properly. That could lead to problems with all the aforementioned there and a whole lot of problems all around the car. Make sure you check your service manual to make sure you're getting all the proper torque specs on everything you do on the car.
Absolutely. Well, we're out of time for today, folks. We had a great day. I hope you did, that's for sure. Make sure you join us next time for more Tech Garage presented by RockAuto.com.
Production assistance for Tech Garage is provided by Chipola College, located in Marianna, Florida. Founded in 1947, Chipola was ranked recently as one of the top 3 community colleges in the United States.